Here's the thing. For everybody listening, don't make the same mistake the Bengals just did in any facet of your life.
People are going to get hurt. It's the hockey season. And if they want to make the deep run to the playoffs, they're going to need players. And Ben Hutton's a good defenseman that can help.
I don't think they will. If they don't have Anthony Davis, I'm saying it right now. If Anthony Davis is out for the playoffs, they don't make it out of the first round.
I was very tempted to just put defense.
What about the Jared Cook play on the sideline? And then Mason Crosby's 55-yard field goal or something like that. That was a good one.
Come on, Austin and I have been saying this ever since Joe Burrow got injured.
I just do not see Harden putting in the same amount of effort into each game. And I honestly believe that's why he hasn't won a championship yet.
That's a perfect name. What you said, name brand players. Like, it's not the great value Target brand toilet paper or whatever. It's the Charmin Ultra Strong.
I swear we didn't script that.
Fultz is injured, and he really hasn't lived up to the potential of being the number one overall pick when he was selected by the Sixers.
Like you said, Ovechkin, he's getting older. He hasn't been playing as well as I imagined. He's one of the greatest goal scorers of all time, but he hasn't started off this season as hot as I would hope.
How is Joe Burrow going to get the ball to them if his butt is already on the ground and he finally decides who to throw to?
I don't really think the Dodgers are going to make the World Series this year. I feel like they'll make it to the NLCS.
And then I want to talk about the Fernando Tatis extension, because that really surprised me. Because he's so young. You see the Chiefs beefing up their O-line, and then you have the Buccaneers beefing up their defensive line.
Ingrained in the life of Tom Brady and what winning actually looks like, I think will be a very good move for Bruce Arians and this Bucs organization.
Hi, I'm Jeff Allen, and you're listening to Outsiders Opinions with Kevin and Austin.
What's up, y'all? Welcome to our NFL Opinions of the Week for December 5th. We are already in December, Austin, and it is week 14 coming up. And week 13 was quite eventful. History was made with the Lions getting their first win, Jared Goff's first win without McVay. And then, so I think that's a good way to start off. Celebrate the Lions winning. It just would have stunk for them going winless in the first 17 game season. What do you think?
Yeah, I 100% agree. And that's a hard-working team. Dan Campbell's squad is definitely, you can tell they want to win. They're not one of those teams that the players look like they're tanking also. I never believe players tank, but you can tell sometimes the players are like, we're going to lose every game, and I don't really care. But the Lions, the past couple weeks, the past whole season, they've been close in a lot of games against some formidable opponents. And they just continue to fight, and they got rewarded with the win. And I'm happy for them.
Yeah, I don't know how I feel about Dan Campbell as a coach, but that's a good point. Like, if you have players wanting to win and fighting for you in, like, the hug he shared with Jared Goff, you have to be doing something right, because if players easily quit on you, then you need to really get rid of that coach, no matter how long it's been. But I don't know. So that's something going for Dan Campbell, but he also has great quotes. But I don't know how I feel about him being like a true coach.
Yeah, it's way too early to tell, though. He wasn't really given much, and I need to see more on the improvement side next season to see if he is going to be a head coach long-term for the Lions, but I'm not going to hold this season against him, as he was not given much to start out with.
That's true. They do have some nice picks, though, in the future, and it will be interesting to see how they do that. And then, so Lions getting their first win, that's a little unexpected given how their trajectory was going. You know what's also unsurprising? It is the Patriots and Cardinals are the number one seeds. You and I agreed on Bills being number one seed in AFC. You and I disagreed on NFC. You said Packers. I said Bucks. Those are all reasonable. If one of us would have put Cardinals or Patriots, or just any combination, I'm pretty sure we would have laughed at each other if one of us said it.
That's true. But if I were you, I'd start getting worried, very worried, in fact, about our preseason predictions. I had the Patriots and Cowboys making the playoffs. You did not have the Patriots or Cowboys making the playoffs. So, do you
I
trying to
thought I
remember?
had Patriots.
I don't think you did. I'll check
I
back.
know I didn't have Cowboys.
You
But
know,
I'm
you definitely
that's a
didn't have
win-win.
Cowboys.
That's a win-win though for me. If the Cowboys don't make it, I get points, and that helps with my sadness.
That's
But if
true.
the
That's
Cowboys
true. That
do
is
make
that
it,
is a good thing. Voting on your team to do bad is a double-edged sword. You either win because you predicted them to do bad, or you are wrong and your team wins. It's
especially when like dealing with the Cowboys who have a history of getting us really hyped and then just going 8-8, but something feels different. There are some problems though with the offense that is starting to scare me, but
you're
I
right. You're
think
right. You did have the Patriots making it.
okay,
Both of us
cool.
did.
I know you were worried when they got rid of Cam Newton.
Yeah, I was worried, but both of us had them making it, and both of them are in. The difference between you and I is that you had the Ravens at 7, and I had the Ravens missing.
And I think you had the Steelers making it.
I had the Steelers making it, and you didn't. But you had the Browns making it, and I did as well. Chargers? Did you have Chargers? You definitely had Chargers making it. Yeah, you
Oh
did.
no. Oh, okay, I did. I know I had Browns winning the division, and
Yeah.
that is not.
I had Steelers winning the division, so that tells you how much.
Well, that could
But
still happen.
I mean,
Honestly,
any
I
team in that
should've-
division could still win the division.
Looking back on it, I should have given the Steelers more credit because of Mike Tomlin never having a losing season. He's at least had a 500 season a couple of times, but still, that's pretty impressive.
You and I both had Seahawks making it, and both of us had them at 6. We both
And I
had
think
Seahawks at
I had
6. But the
Rams
difference was you had Saints making it. I didn't. I had the Saints missing, and you did not. I had mine. I'll just to recap real quick. I had Packers, Rams, Bucks, Washington, 49ers, Seahawks, Cowboys. You had Bucks, Packers, 49ers, Washington, Rams, Seahawks, Saints. But you may get some extra points for having the Rams at 5 if they do end up 5.
That's true.
It's definitely going to be close. But in the AFC, I have no idea where people are going to end up. Like you said, it's been very surprising seeing the Patriots on this run. And a lot of teams are in the hunt. The Steelers are eighth right now. They are currently every team 13 and above. The Dolphins won. We said they had to. We did not count them out. We said they had to win, and they did. They proved us right. I still don't believe any team in the AFC besides. The Colts technically have a chance. They just have a hard schedule going forward, and they have struggled against teams with a winning record this entire season. The Raiders just look like they're on a down spiral. The Browns don't look. The Browns need to get it together too. And while the Broncos struggled against the Chiefs, they've always struggled against the Chiefs. So I give the Broncos the edge over the Browns, Raiders, or Colts, just because the Broncos have actually beaten teams with a above 500 record, such as the Cowboys, for example, or they also beat they beat the Chargers as well.
They
So
beat the Chargers, yeah.
yeah,
But the Cowboys are the only team that they were the last team to beat the Patriots. Just saying. So there's some comfort in that. Even
that's
though
true.
the Broncos lost. The
You were also the
Patriots-
last team that the Raiders beat.
Yeah, it's true. That shows Raiders though, even with like we had Amari Cooper and CD out. I think if one of them is there, we do better, and maybe we possibly win. But having CD and Cooper really hurt the Cowboys offense, and I think we need to see how Kellen Moore responds to this because I really was impressed with him, but now it's starting to cool off. But I'm really impressed with this defense, and specifically defensive player of the year candidate or defensive rookie of the year. I don't think he's in defensive player of the year. I've been seeing people mention that. I'm talking about Micah Parsons.
Yeah.
I think defensive rookie of the year, definitely. I don't think defensive player of the year, even though Micah Parsons is really
I
good.
don't think any Cowboys player is going to be there for Defensive Player of the Year.
Definitely not Trevon Diggs. Have you ever seen Trevon Diggs try to tackle a running back? I saw this, someone on Twitter pointed this out, and now I always see it, and it just makes me laugh.
No, I haven't seen it. What happens?
He does like a weak tackle, and it's kind of Jared Sandler tweeted, he catches like a wide receiver, but also tackles like a wide receiver. So if you ever see Trevon Diggs in the run game, it's pretty funny. It's concerning, but it's funny. But he did get a pick last game. I was pretty hyped about that. But Parsons, he tied Joey Bosa for rookie sack record. He set the Cowboys sack record
For a
for
rookie.
rookies.
Yeah.
But he's tied with Joey Bosa.
Did you know
And
who he beat? Which
Oh,
Cowboys
DeMarcus
legend?
Ware.
Yeah.
DeMarcus Ware. Love DeMarcus Ware.
Yeah, DeMarcus Ware is definitely probably my favorite former Cowboy besides Tony Romo.
Really.
I would say Ware. I've always liked Ware.
He's great, and that's why I rooted for the Broncos when they made it to the Super Bowl.
Oh, yeah.
For Peyton Manning and DeMarcus Ware. And I think you can make an argument DeMarcus Ware helped because Von Miller had off the field problems. And I think DeMarcus Ware served as a role model for Von Miller. And
Oh,
then they created
100%.
an incredible tandem that the Broncos really haven't had since. Like, you've got it with Bradley Chubb and Von Miller, sort of, but just not the consistency of Ware and Miller.
Von Miller's gone now, so
It's true.
there's a lot of things there. But there's a lot of important games this week that I want to talk about. Very important. I want to start out with the Bills versus the Buccaneers. If the Bills lose this game, they're most likely out of the playoff picture for right now. Do you think the Bills lose? I do. The Bucs are at home. Gronk is looking like Gronk, which is an issue for everyone not named the Buccaneers. And Tom Brady's looking like he's the MVP. Thoughts on all of those comments?
Yeah, I don't really know. Like, MVP, like a few episodes ago, I said Dak, and then Dak has just looked off. But I think that's like offensive as a whole. Tom Brady is leading the league in touchdowns.
By a lot.
Yeah.
By a sizable margin.
I'm going to guess his touchdown. Do you want to look it up? I'm
I'm looking it up right now.
I'm going to guess. I think he's at like 37.
There's no way he's at 37. I would be.
Maybe I was just seeing his age. I'm going to guess 30. I'm going to guess 32.
I'm pulling it up right now. If I had to guess, I haven't seen it yet. I would probably go. Let me think. I'll look away. So
I can confirm he's looking away, not at the computer screen.
You know what? I'll go 33. So yeah, I looked it up. It's 34. Both of us were wrong.
Dang, you were close. You were closer with 33. And then to talk about Tom Brady and Gronk, that's a scary thing. And then, as you mentioned, I think it's definite that the Bills will lose. I'm more worried about it being a close game because the Bills have been very finicky. And I wonder if we see how we see the Bucs approach this because the Bucs do have a good run game. So you can see a heavy dose. And I think that's a big weakness of the Bills. If I'm any team that can run the ball, like there were conditions, like that's why Mac Jones only threw 3 times on Monday Night Football. But I think you've seen it. Their losses are Steelers, which I think is just a fluke loss, Jaguars, another fluke loss. But the other 3 losses are Titans, Colts, and then the Patriots. All had a dominant run game. Patriots had one, but the other 2, that was with Derrick Henry with the Titans, and then Jonathan Taylor.
Yeah.
So I think that is a key weakness for the Bills. If I'm someone that wants to beat them in the playoffs, is just run the ball. And I'm curious to see what the Bucs do and how do Bills, knowing that this is a weakness, how do they correct it?
Yeah, and a big part of the game on Monday was the wind. It obviously played a big role, but when you know the team also cannot guard the run game very effectively, Bill Belichick knew what to do, and he basically told Josh McDaniels, "Hey, we're going to run the ball a lot." And Daniels was like, "Okay," and it worked out, and they won the game, and now they're the top seed in the AFC. Let's move on to another very important game: 49ers versus Bengals. Do the Bengals right their wrongs from last week, or do the 49ers win and move up closer to becoming the 5 seed?
That's it's definitely going to be an interesting game. We were talking like you were saying the 49ers, that's kind of soured. Um I might ride it with Bengals on this because I'm pretty sure the 49ers secondary is suspect. And when you have a good wide receiving core like T. Higgins, Jamar Chase, Boyd is good, and then Uzamua is a good tight end, and then Joe Burrow is good. And then you go to the offensive line versus defensive line matchup. That's interesting, but I think I'll go Bengals as I don't really know what's going on with the Niners, which
Yeah,
is
that loss
surprising.
last week to the Seahawks was concerning uh, at best. I mean, I don't really know what to think of the team right now. They're kind of like both teams are very similar, Bengals and 49ers. Every week it seems like a different team takes the field, and that can be concerning when you're getting closer to the playoffs. Another very important game: can this team or the winner of this game will stay in playoff hunt? The loser is out. Uh, Falcons versus Panthers. Both teams are 5-7. The winner definitely still has a chance, as both the 6th and 7th seed in the NFC right now are both 6-6. But if you fall to 5-8, you're out. The confidence in the room will be gone, and you'll basically be done. But Falcons versus Panthers, I think I have Falcons here. The Falcons look better. They made some pushes against the Bucks and looked like a good team. The Bucks were just a better team and ended up with the victory. But I would take Falcons here, and I think the Falcons are definitely the closer team to the playoffs comparatively.
And it's a new offensive coordinator, interim offensive coordinator for the Panthers. Joe Brady was fired, and that is very surprising to me. It's his second year, especially with the offense he had with LSU. Just look at the NFL talent that was on that LSU team. You have Joe Burrow, Jamar Chase, Justin Jefferson. Who's the third wide receiver? Oh,
It's
he's
the
on the
guy who went to
Panthers.
the Panthers.
Yeah. What is? I can't remember his name. Do you know his name?
I can't remember either. He was taken in the second round.
Yes, that is true. Panthers second round. So that and then you it's Terrence Marshall
That's right,
Jr.
Terrence Marshall.
And then you have Clyde Edwards-Helaire on that team, that offense. So and I'm just surprised with Joe Brady.
It was too soon, in my opinion. Three new quarterbacks really that they used. Well, PJ, if you include PJ, that
Yeah,
is
so like
four. So,
four.
yeah, it a lot of volatility for a new coach. I think it was too early, and I don't really understand the firing really at all. And if I was another team that needs an offensive boost, I would definitely look towards Joe Brady for that to be a new offensive coordinator.
Yeah, or maybe he goes back to college for 1 year, and then he builds himself up, and then gets an offense coordinator job somewhere else. So that's something to keep an eye on, and I want to talk about. And then Panthers, the QB situation, and then Christian McCaffrey being on IR, I think hurts, and I probably defer to Falcons, but I think it will be an interesting game. So, any other thoughts?
Yeah, I agree with you. Very interesting game. Now, the biggest game of the week, in my opinion, is Browns Ravens. You can disagree, but I think Browns Ravens definitely has playoff and divisional implications. Browns 6-6, Ravens 8-4. I wish this game was Sunday Night Football because instead of Packers versus Bears, because the Packers Bears game, I think we all know how that game's going to turn out, unless the Bears defense turns into what they are capable of being, and Andy Dalton or Justin Fields, whoever does play, plays amazing. But Ravens versus Browns. The Ravens coming off a tough loss. Browns been middling all season. It almost is like they played better under Case Keenum than Baker Mayfield. Uh, what are your thoughts on that game and what it means?
Interesting. I'm not gonna go with the game of the week. Um, I'm gonna talk about that. The game of the week after I talk about the Browns and Ravens. Ravens lose Marlon Humphrey, so another injury. And then it will be interesting to see what the Browns do, as they could possibly make a run if they wanted. Ravens are still in the fight for that number 1 seed and are in control of the division, but I'm not sure who wins. I probably lean Ravens because I probably defer to Jim Harbaugh over Stefanski, but it will definitely be interesting. However, my game of the week is going to be, wow, it's at 12. That's kind of lame. It's the Cowboys and Washington football team. Washington pulled out a very close win against the Raiders,
And then the week before against the Seahawks, 17-15 back-to-back games.
and Taylor Heineke is he's an interesting player. I won't root for him because he's on the Washington football team, but he's a very good quarterback, and it's a very intriguing story. We saw what he did in the playoffs last year, and then he wasn't even supposed to be the starter. He was supposed to be Fitzmagic, and Fitzmagic's season is over, sadly. If you're a Washington fan,
Well, it's sad for
it
everybody.
stinks.
Everyone wants to see Fitzmagic.
Well, yes, but I
Most
don't want Fitzmagic against the Cowboys. I want like Fitzpatrick from like the Bucks when he throws like 7 picks.
well,
That's the Fitzpatrick I want.
Fitzmagic from the Bucks, those 3 games, whew, that was magical, absolutely magical. But I understand your point. It would be scary. Mariano Rivera tore his ACL catching fly balls in 2012, and he told everybody he wasn't going to retire because he wanted to retire on his own terms. I really hope Fitzmagic does the same thing. I hope he comes back in a backup or otherwise role. I think he deserves an opportunity at a starting job based on how well he's played, but I understand he's going into his 19th season next year or 18th, and he's definitely been middling for some parts of his career and amazing during others and terrible during others. But if you get the great Fitzmagic, he's a top 10 QB in the league. But if you get the worst, he's one of the worst QBs in the league. He's very high and low. But I really hope he doesn't retire. Go out on your own terms, in my opinion. You can choose to. I'm not going to hate you for it. I just hope I get to see Fitzmagic put on an NFL jersey and throw some touchdowns again.
Maybe
But
they find a way for him to go back to the Dolphins.
maybe he goes back to the Texans.
Maybe. I wouldn't want him to go to Texans. That would just be terrible.
I'm just thinking of
Go
someone who
back
needs a
home.
quarterback, and if Tyron leaves,
It's a 2-year deal with Washington, though, so I think he stays with Washington. I just don't want him in Washington.
yeah.
So,
But
We'll
more
win
onto
it.
this game.
Yeah.
Washington's lost some big players, Chase Young. But
Sweat
they're
is out.
yeah,
Another 2 games.
but he's not out for the season, so it's not as bad. But they're on a 4-game win streak, while the Cowboys are not looking as dominant as they did at the beginning of the season. And now a win by Washington puts them in scope of stealing the division. They would be 7-6, while the Cowboys would be 8-5 with a loss. And then Washington plays them again, and they would win the division in that instance. If Washington wins out and the Cowboys win all their games besides those against Washington, Washington would win the division in a very surprising turn of events. What are your thoughts on that and how this game's going to turn out?
That's true. I'm curious to see how this Cowboys offense does. I think Zeke, even though I've been critical of him, he's been good this season. I think he's dealing with something right now. So let's ride Tony Pollard. This defense, when you said dominance, we haven't seen the offensive dominance. That was a very ugly game for the Cowboys against the Saints, but I was impressed with the defense. Neville Gallimore is supposed to be coming back. We got Lawrence back last game. Hopefully, with a game under his belt, he'll do much better. And then, of course, you have Micah Parsons. I also think Randy Gregory is coming back. So that's why I feel we might see how a key thing, if you're just watching and you're not rooting for Washington or Dallas, you want to see how Taylor Heineke does versus this Cowboys defense, especially with Defensive Rookie of the Year candidate Micah Parsons, who had a great sack against Taysom Hill, that 13-yard sack, and then does Trevon Diggs, he had another pick, and all that other stuff. So I think it's very intriguing for the scenario you mentioned, Austin, and I wonder if Heineke, can he keep it up? Because as more film comes out, he'll have to adjust. But that's something to keep an eye on. And then talking about playoffs, do you have any idea? I think Bucks is pretty probable. for how they'll do in the playoffs because you have a healthy Gronk. Everyone else, though, I really have no idea. What about you? Especially AFC. AFC, you can flip a coin. Like, put the Jags in, just in case. Let's just see how far they can go for the playoffs. Do you agree with that sentiment?
Yeah, the Bucks are even a question mark because of their health history with Gronk. Now, if you were to tell me Gronk's going to be healthy, I'd be like, yeah, they're going to make it far. They may lose in the NFC Championship game, but they're going to make it at least. At the very minimum, they make it to the NFC Championship with a healthy Gronk, in my opinion, unless somebody plays very inspired football in a playoff game against Tom Brady, which is very hard to do, as we've seen, as he demoralizes opponents with that Falcons game still rings in the head of all Falcons fans and players whenever we hear Tom Brady versus the Falcons again. But the AFC is even more of a question mark because I don't know, not only health wise with like the Ravens or the Browns seem to have struggled with health issues, but the Chiefs need to prove that they are for real. Their offense only scored 15 points against the Broncos. They scored 22, but they had a pick six, and if you take away the extra points, they only had 12 points offensively speaking. So it just, or 14 points. It just doesn't seem like they are consistently playing well offensively, and we know the Chiefs are a team that has to play well offensively to win games, especially in the playoffs, because the Bucks are going to put up their points. The Chiefs defense is not good enough to hold the Bucks under 30. We know that to be a fact. So the Chiefs offense is going to have to put up points, and against good teams, against good defenses, against inspired defenses in the playoffs, I don't really know. And then for the Steelers or anyone in the AFC North, it just seems like every week it changes what these teams actually are. Uh, the Ravens lost to the Dolphins, who are now apparently good. Uh, the Bengals lost to the Jets. The Steelers have played terrible games. The Browns don't look like they're inspired. The AFC is just a big question mark, and I wouldn't make any predictions that I'd bet any money on right now for the AFC.
Yeah, the key thing for the AFC is whoever gets hot in these coming weeks, maybe not this week, but the next week, whoever starts getting on a roll, that's who I might lean towards when we do playoff predictions. You do make a good point with healthy Gronk and the Bucks. Rams, if they turn it on, they could have a possible chance to beat the Bucks, even with a healthy Gronk. Even though that's a very tough task, we've seen it done before, like a Von Miller defensive team with the Broncos. They beat the Patriots it was at Mile High.
Yeah,
Correct?
it was. The AFC Championship game, yeah, it was.
Yeah.
Very close. It came down to a 2-point conversion at the end. They lost 20-18, the Patriots did. 2-point conversion. They drove all the way down the field. They passed to Gronk literally every play, it seemed like, because Edelman, I believe, was out for that game. And then they go up for the 2-point conversion. Gronk doesn't get to the ball, and the Broncos are AFC and then eventual Super Bowl champions. It's a valiant effort you have to make to stop Gronk and Brady when they're riding high, but it's possible. Anything's possible, especially when this season has been so unpredictable overall.
And speaking to the Chiefs, their defense looked good because they got a defensive touchdown, which is very contrary to what we saw at the beginning. Offense, maybe they make a similar change and they get hot at the right moment. But two things that stick out to the Bills and Chiefs is their running game. Because the Bills still threw it with Josh Allen, and they usually run with Josh Allen as a quarterback. That's something looking into the offseason or even like draft or free agency. I would like to see the Bills get an established running back to put in the run game and not put it all on Josh Allen's shoulders. Clyde Edwards-Helaire just came back from injury, so maybe we start seeing more running from the Chiefs offense. As I think a run game is going to be huge, especially in the AFC. If you want to beat the Bills, or if you are the Bills, take up some time. These are the months to start building up a run game, getting good defense, because we saw how far that went with the Titans a few years ago, and they made it to an AFC Championship game. There is a formula. The run game is important. The thing is, some people will disagree on the running back and in that run game. So, any other thoughts?
No, it's going to be a very tumultuous end of the season, and I'm excited for a lot of good football hopefully left.
Hopefully. And then playoffs, we'll see how that goes. And it was a little bit scattered, but hope you enjoyed this NFL Opinions of the Week. Let us know what you thought. Feel free to add us on Twitter. And thank you for listening to Outsiders Opinions.